All right. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. This is Lee McCroskey broadcasting live from the third floor in his home, along with my dog Finnegan. There's Finnegan. Wave, Finnegan. Nope. Okay, not too inspired. All right. Good to have you with us today. We've just got a couple chapters left after this, and some of you are excited about that, but we're covering this, John Maxwell, Developing the Leader Within You. And if you've just joined the company, you're like, well, what has this been about? Well, here's what we've covered so far in the last 7 or 8 weeks. We've talked about the definition of leadership, which is influence, the key to leadership, which Maxwell says is priorities. Then we talked about character, how to create positive change. We talked about the quickest way to gain leadership, and that's to solve problems. Who's good? Who are good problem solvers here? Does anyone have problems? Yes. All right. I know some of you who blacked out your video are raising your hand now. Also, there's attitude. We talked about serving people a couple of weeks ago. This week, we talk about a topic that is hard for me to discuss because it's not my area of gifting, but we talk about vision. And that's why some of you are like, oh, now I know why he was playing that song, One Vision by Queen, which will be on my recommendation list for Aaron's Spotify. So let's talk about this. Let me explain why this is difficult for me. All of us have different areas of gifting. Some of us are great at goal setting. Some of us are great at execution. Some of us are great at connection with people. But this one about vision, this chapter is kind of difficult because you really have to think about this on 2 levels. Maxwell writes it as if you, as the reader, were someone that was running an organization or a department or a team or an office. So, and you're casting vision for the group, and that's fine. Now, some of you who are not in that situation are going, well, what does vision have to do with me? I think vision applies to everybody. You have a vision for your family. You have a vision for your future family. If you don't have a family like kids and a spouse at this point, vision is important because it makes you think, makes you fast forward into the future. So we have to think about this on 2 levels. So I'm going to try to do both, and this will be kind of random and kind of short, so don't worry. It's okay. You've got things to do. All right. Let me just start off with something that Andy Stanley said in the book. Andy Stanley is a relatively famous pastor here in America, but he says this about vision. He says, vision gives significance to the otherwise meaningless details of our lives. Too many times, the routines of life begin to feel like shoveling dirt. Who's done that? All right, 3 of us. So we can relate. Shoveling dirt. He says, but take those same routines, those same responsibilities, and view them through the lens of vision, and everything looks different. Vision brings your world into focus. Vision brings order to chaos, or order out of chaos. And a clear vision enables you to see everything differently. So true. So my first question to you today is, what is your personal vision for the future? Do you have one? What's your personal vision for the future? And if you're unsure of that, here's something that's a truth, and it's not even in the book. This is from Lee's Developing the Leadership Within book that I'm not writing, but you should write this down. And I've said it before, you don't get what you want, you get what you picture. Is that true? Yes, you don't get what you want, you get what you picture in your mind. Your mind is powerful. Whatever you focus on can become reality if it's imagined vividly, okay? How many of you have ever experienced a self-fulfilling prophecy where you worried about something and thought about it and you were really anxious, and then sometimes it comes to pass, sometimes it doesn't, but your imagination is at work and you spend all that emotion on it. So we don't always get what we want, but we do get what we picture in our minds. So vision really really key. All right, let me share a little bit of stuff out of the book here. If you're thinking of points and when do I write things down, this is kind of a point here. People do what people see. People do what people see. And if you're in an office with other people, we're all watching each other. And if you're in a leadership role, they watch what you do. And that's probably the greatest motivational principle in the world, is just leadership by example. And Maxwell says this about that particular topic. He says there are 4 types of people involved in followers and leaders. He said there are some people who never see the vision, and they just are wanderers. He says there are also people who see it but never pursue it on their own, and that makes them followers. Okay? Which is okay at some points of our life. Surely we need to be followers. We need to learn followership along with leadership. He said there's another group of people who see the vision and pursue it. They're achievers. And then there's some people who see it, pursue it, and then help other people see it and pursue it. And they are absolute leaders because they are maximum influencers. All right? So, one quote that I do like out of here that I want to share with you. This is from Konrad Adenauer, whom I do not know. But if you know him, this will mean more to you. Konrad says this: we all live under the same sky, but don't all have the same horizon. That's true, is it not? We all live under the same sky, but we don't have the same horizon. We don't have the same vision in the distance. All right, so that's okay. Now, he does warn us when it comes to vision that we've got to be careful. There's a guy in here he highlights called Kenneth Hildebrand, another author I do not know, that wrote a piece called The Mundane Man, and which could be translated to the mundane person for that matter. But I'll use the masculine form. Here's what he says about the mundane man, a person without depth. Please do not take notes on this. He says, the mundane man lacks depth. He lacks vision. The poorest of all men is not the one without a nickel to his name. He's the fellow without a dream. The mundane man resembles a great ship made for the mighty ocean, but trying to navigate in a mill pond. He has no far port to reach, no lifting horizon, no precious cargo to carry. His hours are absorbed in routine and petty tyrannies. Yikes. Small wonder if he gets dissatisfied, quarrelsome, and fed up. Now listen to this last line, because I think it's kind of important. One of life's greatest tragedies is a person with a 10 by 12 capacity and a 2 by 4 soul. Do you know anybody like that with a 10 by 12 potential capacity, but a 2 by 4 soul because they lack vision or discipline? To me, that's the most scary thing in life, is having all kinds of potential, all kinds of gifting, all kinds of opportunity, and then never taking advantage of it. And then you live in the fields of regret. Wow. I paused for emphasis. So let's not pursue the mundane course. Let's look ahead to our future and create a compelling vision. Because if we've got that, life's a lot more fun. All right. And you know what? I think, let me detour a little bit. When I was making some notes for this particular chapter, I thought you all, if you're writing down your gratitude journal, your gratefulness, you ought to write down Dimitri. You should be grateful for Dimitri. Is anybody nod your head? Yeah. Dimitri is a man of vision, and that's why all of you all have a career that's budding or blossoming or growing mightily. One of the points in the book that I think applies to Dimitri perfectly is that good leaders see more and before. That's what he calls it. They see more than others. They see before others. Does that make sense? So they see more and they see before. And so when I read that quote out of the book, I thought this this kind of characterizes Dimitri because he has big visions for the company. Would you agree? Yes. He's implementing change at a lightning fast pace. Yes. There's all kinds of technological things happening for your benefit. Yes. So good leaders are not just sitting right here going, how do we make this organization great? But they're looking ahead. And as he said in one of his broadcasts, creating the future, right? You remember that? Creating the future. And that's just what vision is all about. So I think the fact that good leaders see more and before others is a huge deal. Now, there's pitfalls along the way. Jonas Salk, who was the developer of the polio vaccine, said this, and this also applies to growing companies like LGFG. He said, first, people will tell you that you're wrong. Then they'll tell you that you're right, but what you're doing really isn't important. Finally, they'll admit you're right and that what you're doing is very important, but after all, they knew it all the time. So I don't know if any of you joined the company and then you had detractors and skeptics saying, you're crazy, it's not going to work. Why would you want to be a clothier? Why would you want to be on the phone all day as a booking buddy? But you had a vision. And eventually, a lot of those people come around and become cheerleaders for you and not detractors. So anyway, it's a hard course for Dimitri because he's got big plans and a big vision for the company. Not all of us are in positions at LGFG where vision is compelling. But again, ask yourself, how does this apply to me on a personal level? What's my vision for my life? Now, one thing he does recommend in the chapter that I think is a good idea is he says that you've really got to spend time with the right people. All right? Spend time with the right people. People who inspire you to see more and before others, right? So he calls this who luck, which is kind of like some sort of Dr. Seuss reference, you know, the who's down in Whoville, but he calls it who luck. And you've heard people say, well, it's not what you know, it's who you know that can make you successful. And in large part, that can be true. So when Jim Collins in his book, which is where Maxwell took this idea of who luck, he says, you know, seek out people who will cause you to grow and who will cause you to stretch. So my question to you when it comes to who do you know, like he tells this story in the book. He said he wanted to be a great pastor. John Maxwell wanted to be a great pastor when he was younger. So he wrote down 10 of the greatest pastors and ministers he knew in the United States, and he wrote to them asking for just 30 minutes of their time, and he would buy them lunch or whatever. Well, it turns out that out of the 10 he wrote to, only 2 said yes. But those 2 that he got to know, that he got an appointment with, that he spent time with, opened the doors for the other 10. So he was very much focused on who you know is really important. So my question to you is, who are you actively searching for people who can enlarge you and your vision and help you improve? I mean, look at people, they may not become permanent mentors, but just ask someone that you admire and look up to that you might learn from. Ask them to go out to lunch with you. Tell them you'll buy them lunch or dinner or whatever. It's worth it. And just say, hey, you're where I might want to be someday, or you have qualities and attributes that I'd like to develop as I get older. Do you mind if I spend a few minutes with you, maybe 20 minutes, and just ask you a few questions? Most people who are in leadership positions, who have someone that approaches them in that way, will say, sure, you know, they can make some time for you. But anyway, it might be a client of yours, a repeat client, somebody that you see is really a person of influence. You might grab them and say, hey, in between appointments, can I grab you sometime and we can talk? So you can work that out. But who you know is kind of important. Okay, now here's another big step, is to increase your vision, to increase your growth, you also have to intentionally make an effort to grow every day. Okay? Make an intentional effort to grow every day. And here's what Earl Nightingale says on page 174. He said, Maxwell said he heard Earl Nightingale speak, and he said this: if a person will spend 1 hour every day for 5 years, that's a long time, on a certain subject, that person will become an expert. And so Maxwell, when he heard that, he goes, okay, if I want to be really good at something, I'm going to spend an hour a day on it for 5 years. Well, he started studying influence and leadership, and now he's written over 100 books. He just made that his life passion. So what are you doing every day to grow as a person? What is your vision? And Maxwell said he changed his question when he was young from how long is this going to take? How long will it take? He changed his question to how far can I go if I'm growing? So what a better question. How far can I go as I grow? That's massive. That gives you a whole new, turns your radar on mentally to whole new vistas, right? I mean, even though I'm not in school anymore, and even though I am not in a typical position in a corporate structure, I still am attempting to learn and grow. And I love the great courses. There's a website called greatcourses.com, and they have streaming courses from the best professors all over the world who teach subjects. Anything you'd want to know, they're teaching. And you can take short little 30-minute lectures and learn about particular topics. I was watching one here. Here's one, just the booklet that goes with it, on the Old Testament. How about that? Learning more about the Torah. So I'll try to spend at least 30 minutes a day to an hour watching a couple lectures. So I'm still trying to go and grow. Steve Jobs said this: if you're working on something exciting, everybody knows Steve Jobs, yeah? You've heard of him? Okay. Think Apple. He says, if you're working on something exciting that you're very excited about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you. So a compelling vision, man, Tony Robbins is all over that. You don't have to sit and motivate yourself if you have a compelling reason to do what you're doing. All right. So that, honestly, folks, that is most of what this chapter is about, that would apply to about everybody in here. Let me just share with you right here as we close a few more thought-provoking questions to help. You're like, okay, what do I do? How do I get a vision? How do I develop that? Let me share a couple thoughts here. He says to identify your vision, you need to look behind you. Okay? Look behind you. What have you learned so far? And that's the value of looking to your past. What have I learned? Then he says you need to look within you. Okay? What do you feel? What motivates you? What excites you? That can contribute to a vision. Okay? Then he says, third, look around you. What is happening to other people? What are trends that are going on? Where can I maybe join that trend? Okay? Then he says, look ahead of you. What's the big picture in the future? What's the big picture? And then he even adds another one, which may or may not resonate with you, but he says, look above you. What does God expect of you? Okay? And that's important. All right? Then he says to increase your vision, and this will be kind of a recap, but he says, do you see more and before than the people that you lead? You've got to look ahead. You've got to anticipate. That's what management's about, anticipating what's coming so you're never blindsided. But he says there's 3 things to think about on increasing your vision. 1, spend time, and we're back into the chapter, spend time with people who inspire you to dream bigger. All of us are surrounded by people who are happy for us to say very average. And if you try to do something above average, they're like, stop. What are you doing? You're crazy. Relax. Come watch TV with me some more. And that's how you become the mundane man that we talked about. But he says, spend time with people who inspire you to dream bigger. Who does that for you? Get a meeting with them. Second way to increase your vision is, he says, ask questions to help you see farther. Be curious. way back when I first started doing these calls, we had a little short series on curiosity and developing curiosity, just like, I wonder why that is, and just asking questions. So asking questions, Maxwell says when he was younger, as a leader, he gave directions. He just gave directions, do this, do that. And as he's gotten older, he spends much more time asking questions than giving directions. And then third and finally, he says, develop a vision growth plan. What is your vision growth plan? What can you do now to develop in the area of vision? You know, some of you just need to check out some good biographies of great people and read them and think, wow, this person thinks different. She thinks vastly differently than I do. Well, learn from that, okay? So study people who've done well. All right. So that's what I'm going to leave you with on vision. Let me just say, I got a couple quotes. Some of you are like, what about quotes? Okay, I can do that for you. This one, and this dates back to 2 calls ago, because gratitude is the foundation of lots of things. So here's a quote by Melody Beattie, whom I don't even know her. I've got all these people I don't know, but I do have their quotes. She says, gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates vision for tomorrow. So gratitude helps put things in perspective. So I would encourage that if you're starting to think about vision. All right. And Warren Bennis, who's heard of Warren Bennis? Kind of famous, rich dude, says this: leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. So some of you can just rest and go, okay, I'm going to rest and relax in Dimitri's vision, where the company's going, and I'm excited about that, and that is fine. And some of you are like, I got big plans for my life. LGFG is a cool stepping stone to help me grow toward the vision I have. Cool. Do that. But keep that picture in your mind, because you don't always get what you want, but you do get what you picture. All right? So that is, you guys are champions. I've enjoyed seeing 5 of you on the screen. The rest of you, I've enjoyed you muting yourself. And I wish you well this week. Go out and create a compelling vision for the future. And we will talk again next week. All right? Carry on.